these were built on the 2012 code. We got about at least halfway through, more than halfway through on the residential code. So some of it's been updated. Some of it may not be correct the rest of the day. The International Fuel Gas Code is from the 2012. It hasn't been updated. As we go through it, I'll update it. But it's just for your records. All right, where was the last code we hit, folks? Anybody remember? We finished.
We're going to start chapter 13.
Did we cover 13?
Yeah.
We did. Super. Okay. So the first one I'm showing is 1401.3. Let's see. And like I said, these may or may not be right with the 15. Let's see. So 1401.3 sizing. That still looks right there, right? Yeah. Except for they have added an exception I see here. Okay, 1401.3 heating and cooling equipment and appliances shall be sized in accordance with ACA Manual S or other approved sizing methodologies based on building local loads calculated in accordance with ACA Manual J. The exception shall not be limited to the capacity determined in accordance with Manual S. So, Manual S is a manual very few people get into. Manual S is equipment selection. That's where the S comes from. Selection. And it talks a lot about the latent load and what kind of latent capacity you have with equipment and determining that. And you take that information and look at what you did on your Manual J, which would tell you what my sensible load, my latent load, and my total load is, and you match them up so that you don't have a house or a building that is out of whack. In other words, you got more than enough total capacity, but it comes on, cools the house off, and doesn't remove the latent load, okay? That's why the S is in there. Let's see what we got next. 1403. Is that right? Yep. So, nothing on central furnaces. So, what's heat pump equipment? All right, so they have changed this up. So what are we missing? Electric heat pump shall be listed and labeled in accordance with UL 1995. Okay, so we're going to see if we can find this. Let me read this to you. This was in the 12, and this has been taken out. Under heat pumps, the return and outside air ducts combined shall be not less than 6 square inches per 1,000 BTUs. So in other words, if I have a 3-ton heat pump, 36,000 BTUs, then I'm going to have, for every 1,000, that'd be 36. I want 6 square inches. So 6 times 36, the return and the makeup air, the fresh air, would have to be at least that. So I cannot believe we're not going to see that again, okay? We'll have to keep our eyes open. Y'all have to help me. I don't know where it is. It's going to be in here. Also, foundation supports for heat pumps. It says supports and foundation for outdoor unit of the heat pump shall be raised at least 3 inches above the ground. So we're going to see where that shows back up, okay? We'll just have to keep our eyes open.
What does it say?
It's not in the 15, that's what I'm saying. So I'm going to scratch 1403 off and 1403.32 because it's obviously been moved, okay? So the next thing I had was 411. So let's see if we have anything before that. Radiant systems, radiant panels, concrete, duct heaters, vented floor furnaces, I think we need to add that. Let's add 14083. 14083. All right. Location, this is a floor furnaces. Vented floor furnaces. Floor registers of floor furnace shall be installed not less than 6 inches from a wall. So we can't get any closer than 6 inches from a wall. This is a floor furnace. Now, this is not a register. I don't know, some of you may have never seen those, but they're big old floor furnaces. A lot of times you see them in community centers and churches because if the power goes off, we can run them without power. There's no fan. What else is important? 12 inches from a door, 5 feet from below any projected combustible materials. All right, nothing else looks too. All right, 4085, pardon me, 1408.5, number 3. Floor furnace should be installed not closer than 6 inches to the ground. See, these things are in the crawl space. The minimum clearance shall be 2 inches. Where the lower 6 inches of the furnace is sealed to prevent any water entry. Okay. Number 5, floor furnace shall not be supported from the ground. Okay. All right. Keep on. So 1411, this is where we're back to it. Before it was what, 14.2? Refrigeration coils in warm air furnaces. Okay. They usually, let's take a look at this. Where a cooling coil, that's our AC coil, is located in the supply plenum of a warm air furnace, pretty common, the furnace blower shall be rated at not less than a ½ inch of water column per static pressure. Unless the furnace is listed and labeled for the use with the coil. Cooling coil shall not be located, and here's the kicker here, upstream from the heat exchanger unless listed and labeled for such use. Now let's talk about this. A lot of people have trouble with this. I guess we don't spend much time on the rivers. Rivers flow one direction. Okay? But, well, I'm just saying, if the river's flowing by this way, that's the way the river's flowing. If the river's flowing this way, let's say it's flowing left to right, depending on where you're at. For me, left to right is this way. Left to right for y'all is the other way, right? All right, depending on the flow, upstream would be from where it's coming from. Downstream would be where it's going. And so they're saying on a furnace, we cannot put the coil upstream of it. In other words, the coil comes before the furnace. The problem with this is in the summer, cold, humid, loaded with moisture, It's going to hit that big steel heat exchanger and rust it out. Has to be downstream. Does that make sense? Has to be downstream. That way,
the direction is to flow to the freon.
Don't care about the freon. Don't care about the freon. Just the air, the way the air is flowing. Okay, so that way when the moist air comes out, cold air, it's going to be in the house, it's going to be in the ductwork, and then it's going to warm up. It's going to be in the return before it comes back, so it won't rust it out as bad. The exception is if you buy a product that specifically says, I'm made to go upstream, and that's what you see in a lot of the package units. They're made to be that way. Okay? Upstream, downstream. Got to be downstream, can't be upstream. And that's why on a heat pump, say I have a heat pump coil downstream. Isn't that where it's supposed to be? Isn't that where your air conditioner coil is supposed to be? Downstream. So I got the heat pump running. It's putting out 100-degree heat. Doing a great job heating your house. The air coming from your return is probably 70, 75 degrees. It hits the 100-degree air, hot to cold, right? The heat exchanger is going to go from the heat pump coil to your air and bring nice warm air out in the room. You go, hey, I need backup heat. You cut the gas heat on. That gas furnace is 130, 140 degrees. It's warmer than the heat pump. The heat pump can no longer reject heat there. That's why a heat pump cuts off when you cut up your backup gas heat. And if you have strip heat, guess what? It's downstream of the coil. Okay? All right. What about condensate disposal? 14.11.3. All right. So here is our condensate, and this is not from our AC. This is from a furnace that has condensation, a 90 plus. Direction of not less than 1/8 of a unit in vertical and 1/8, in 12 units. So for every foot of run, we want 1/8 of an inch. Okay. Okay, drain materials. All right, so let's look at 14.11.3.2, I guess, still. Is that, yep, drain pipe. Not less than 3/4 of an inch. Y'all see that? 14.11.3.2, 14.11.3.2. I guess we did hit 14.3.1 water level monitoring devices, but yeah, it's fine to have that one listed too. Let's see, water level monitoring devices on downflow units and other coils that do not have a secondary drain or provisions to install a secondary or auxiliary drain pan. A water level monitoring device shall be installed inside the primary drain pan. This device shall shut off the equipment served in the event that the primary drain becomes restricted. So you can have a float valve there. Materials, just about anything. Let's see. ABS, cast iron, copper, crosslink, polyethylene, CPVC, galvanized steel, PERT, polyethylene, polypropylene, PVC, all those will work. All right, 14.11.4. 14.11.4 condensate pumps. This is simply saying that if you use these pumps, they're going to have a kill switch, right? If the pump fails, the appliance or equipment will be prevented from operating So that it's going to have a float switch in, which will kill your power. See, 11.5, auxiliary drain pan. Category 4, that's our condensate or high efficiency furnaces, shall have an auxiliary drain pan where damage to any building component could occur as a result of a stoppage of the condensate. Let's look at 14.11.6. I've been asking this. 14.11.6. Insulation of refrigerant piping. Piping and fittings for refrigerant vapor, the suction line, shall be insulated with an insulating have a thermal resistance of not less than R4. Okay, R4. Joshua Brown, no. Kerry, raise your hand. How did the interview do? Was it a waste of time? I'm sorry. You never know how it's going to go. Terry. All right. Let's see if there's anything else in chapter 14 here. Since they moved. Okay, I see that right there. 14.11.8. How did I miss that? 14.11.8. Locking access port caps. Refrigerant circuit access ports located outside shall be fitted with locking type tamper-resistant caps or shall be otherwise secured to prevent unauthorized access. So I have failed that before, and they said you got to have locking caps on here.
Where are the keys?
When you buy the caps, they'll give you a key. It's pretty easy to rig it off, but
How about the tag them off?
What now?
Is that right, the tag them off?
It's a big oversized cap, and they're color coded for green or purple, depending on if they're 410A or 22. And the key kind of fits down in there and spins. It's hard to describe. It's very, very simple. If you had some tools, you could get it off pretty easy.
Yeah, that threw me off. I saw one in Rossbridge.
Okay.
Is he saying that everyone has to have one?
If it's going to be inspected, yeah.
Is it go on the condenser unit, right?
On the outside condenser unit, yes, sir.
I thought it was like a childproof thing.
I guess too many people were going around huffing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I used to into one time. I think that's what happened.
How is that required on repairs or just installations?
I don't think that you'd have it inspected on repair. If you did for some reason, they'd probably want to see them. They'd probably say, bring it up to code. But I mean, they're like $4 or $5, but still, it's just, they can't seem to keep their hands out of our pocket. 15, exhaust systems. Let's see. All right. What was our first? 15.02.3. Let's see if that's changed. Okay, yeah, this has changed in the mechanical, so this might have changed here. Let's see if they give us a new table. On 15.02.3, now we're talking, it's our job on a new house or something. We're the people who run dryer duct. You know, we're the duct people. So that's why we care about clothes dryers. And there's two, obviously, you have commercial grade clothes dryers at a washateria or whatever you call it, a laundromat, and you have regular private, home residential. Okay, clothes dryer, duct termination, exhaust ducts shall terminate on the outside of the building. Exhaust duct termination shall be in accordance with the dryer manufacturer's installation instruction. If the manufacturer's instructions do not specify a termination location, it shall terminate not less than 3 feet in any direction from opening into the building. We don't want to get that stuff back in. Exhaust duct termination shall be equipped with backdraft dampers. Screens shall not be installed at the duct termination. Okay. Let's look at 5024, which basically says just look to the next one. Material and size 401. Okay, we still got that. They shall have a smooth interior finish. Not trying to catch that, all that lint and stuff, and be constructed of metal. Have a metal now, and have minimum thickness of 0.0157. That's 28 gauge. That's what most of our ductwork is anyway. The duct shall be 4 inches nominal in diameter. Okay, so even a lot of these fart fans are going to come, and the dryers, if they come with a 3 inch, you still got to run 4 inch, okay? What else we got? 4.2 and 4.3. Look at duct lengths, 4.5. Is that on there? 1502.4.5. All right, so duct lengths, it says, okay, we got a table here, and it basically says the maximum length of an exhaust duct shall be 35 feet from the connection to if you're going to use a transition duct. Now, whenever you use a fitting, that's a turn, whether it be 5%, 10%, 45, 90. Fittings are used. The maximum length of the duct shall be reduced. And so here's our reducing fitting table. 502451, right? Let me write that new number down. 1502.4.5.1. See, for 45, 2.5 feet, every 90, 5 feet. Of course, that was based on a 4 inch. You might have 6, 8, 10. Obviously, that's a big old dryer. Use a 10 inch. Anything else I want here? Okay, see, so 1503 is range hoods. Let's see what we got here. All right. Range hoods shall discharge to the outdoors through a duct. The duct serving the hood shall have a smooth interior surface, be airtight, be equipped with a backdraft damper, and be independent of all other exhaust systems. It shall not terminate in the attic or the crawl space. The exception, of course, is if it's made, the manufacturer is labeled and listed to do so. Duct material, 3.2. Do I have that down? Okay, so I just wrote all there. Okay. Galvanized steel, stainless steel, or copper. Yeah. You're going to use galvanized unless you're just rich. Okay, let's see. How much should our exhaust rates be for these kitchen ranges? We're going to do that in accordance with 15074 in just a minute when we get up there. Let's look at makeup air. 15034. All right, so since we're blowing air out, we're sucking air out of the kitchen and blowing it outside. That air's got to come from somewhere or our house is going to get negative pressure. Exhaust hood systems capable of exhausting in excess of 400 cubic feet per minute shall be mechanically or naturally provided with makeup air at a rate approximately equal to the exhaust air rate. Such makeup air system shall be equipped with not less than one damper. Each damper shall be a gravity damper or an electrically operated damper that automatically opens when the exhaust system operates. Dampers shall be accessible for inspection, service, repair, and replacement without the removal of permanent construction or any other ducts not connected to the damper being inspected, serviced, repaired, or replaced. All right. So if we're under 400, which is pretty strong, most of them you buy are not going to be over that. It's going to be, you're going to be in a pretty pricey house if they're going to have a kitchen at home that has over 400 CFM kicking. So look at the location if we do have to have it. Makeup air shall be discharged into the same room in which the exhaust system is located or into rooms or duct systems that communicate through one or more permanent openings with the room in which such exhaust system is located. Such permanent opening shall have a net cross-sectional area not less than the required area of the makeup air supply openings. So basically, got to be, I guess, in the kitchen here. Now that's one thing. They do prohibit us putting a return duct for our system in the kitchen, and that's one of the reasons is you're going to be exhausting, and that little range fan can't very well fight your 5-ton blower motor. Okay. Where we at? Jump to 1507, mechanical ventilation. Okay. Not worried about that. All right, let's look at our mechanical ventilation, 1507. And in particular, we were looking at whole house. Is that what we were looking at? All right, so this is pretty complicated, so let's take a minute to look at this. All right, so on a residence, exhaust and mechanical ventilation should be provided and designed with this section, 1507. Says whole house mechanical. We're going to use 1507.3.1 through 3.3. So system design, system control, and the mechanical ventilation rate all go hand in hand. What have we done before? Typically, we'll figure out what the minimum ventilation from outside needs to be. We will tie that into the return duct of our air. I didn't see you come in. Return air duct. And so when the air conditioner system cuts on, it pulls some fresh air in, okay? And that is typically what we're going to do now unless you have your own duct system and blower motor. So let's take a look at this. Mechanical ventilation rate, 3.3. The whole house mechanical ventilation shall provide outdoor air at a continuous rate not less than determined in table 1507.3.3.1. Now there is an exception to this rate. Its system is permitted to operate intermittently where the system has control that enable operation for not less than 25% of each of a 4-hour segment and the ventilation rate prescribed in this table. Basically, you can use your duct system. So let's look at this. Continuous whole house mechanical ventilation rate. Dwelling unit floor area. So we would find how big your house is, the floor area. Then we would go to, you see the number of bedrooms. Then we'd find the CFM. Now this is continuous. Continuous, right? Let's look at the next one, table 1507.3.2. We're right all there. run time percentage in each 4-hour segment. We have a factor A, and then what percentage we have. Let's look at this. For ventilation system runtime values between those given, the factors are permitted to be determined by interpolation. And on B, let's see, instead of interpolation, what is extra? How would you say that? Interpolation and extrapolation. Well, that's a mouthful. Extrapolation. Beyond the table is prohibited. So let's go back and take a look at that. Our exception under 1507.3.3. The whole house mechanical ventilation system is permitted to operate intermittently where the system has controls that enable operation for not less than 25% of each 4-hour segment. So not less than, I guess that's 1 hour out of a 4-hour segment. That's 25% of it. And the ventilation rate prescribed in the table, 3331, yep, is multiplied by the factor determined in accordance with the table there. So and the ventilation rate prescribed. So I guess if you found your rate here, say 50 CFM, you're going to multiply by the factor determined in the next one. Am I reading this right? So if it was 50, okay, let's just say this. Let's say I've got a 2,000 square foot house with 4 bedrooms. So looking at table 1507.331, that's going to put me at 1501 to 3,000. And under 4 bedrooms, that looks like 75%, right? And so if I had a continuous fan, I would need 75 CFM. But let's say, hey, I don't want to do that. I want to tie it to my system if I can make do. I would go down below. My factor was 75 CFM, right? And at under 25%, it would be 4 there. So 4 times 75% intermittent, I believe, is what they're telling us. For ventilation system runtime values between those given. Okay. Enough of that. So that's the end of 15. We only got 2 more chapters, so it's not that bad, y'all. 16, duct systems. Although we need to find that. All right, 1601 duct design. Okay, tells us here, it lays it out. It's got to be in accordance with manual ACA D, right? 16011, I guess. Above ground duct systems. Got to conform to the following. No temperature greater than 250. Got to use UL 181 standards. If you're using a duct board, you're going to have to use the SMACNA, the NAIMA. Anything else here? No materials having a flame spread index of greater than 200. If you're going to use stud wall cavities between solid floor joists, they've got to comply to the following. You're not going to do that anyway. Duct construction, minimum sheet metal thickness for single dwellings. All right, now this has changed. Does everybody here have the 15? Is that what everybody's using?
Yep.
If you don't have the 15, raise your hand. And you have 9, you have, all right, 9's the biggest change. Okay, so I believe, all right, Everybody else is at table 160111. Do y'all have table 160111 and 9? 160111.
Yeah.
Yeah, that table. Yeah, it's the different. It's 112. All right, there's some changes here now. Maybe some changes from 12 to 15, but I know there are. So y'all might want to write this in y'all's book in ink. All right. First of all, we break it down into round duct and the rectangular duct. Y'all see that on the board there in the projection? Under round, we have less than 12, 12 to 14, 15 to 17, 18, 19, and 20. And then we have a duplication for rectangular. Static pressure, we're down to now, the 12 didn't have any kind of pressure rating. Most people do use a half-pound system. Are you using galvanized? Yes. I'm going to use aluminum if we're building trailers. And there is our thickness, okay? Y'all, this is important to find. This is one of the places they're going to come. Y'all no longer have the SMACNA book allowed. Okay, used to, that's what we do. We look up gauges of, let's say you were making a 40-inch by 15-inch duct, and it would tell us what gauge we'd have to use and everything. Transverse points. This is about the only information, and we'll see it again in the mechanical code. But this table, if they go, hey, what thickness should the metal be in your duct? A 15-inch duct, or something like that. That's what they're going to do. They're going to come to this table. I mean, it's pretty simple, but if you don't know to come to this table, you're going to be lost. Okay?
How do you know what's the difference? How do you know to use the half inch or the whole inch?
They in the question they'd have to tell you. If they don't tell you, assume half inch. The next one I have is 16014. Insulation, is that what we got down here? All right, let's look at 160141. Joint seams and connections. Longitudinal and transverse joints, seams, and connections in metallic and non-metallic ducts shall be constructed as specified in the SMACNA HVAC duct construction standards, which y'all don't have, or the NAIMA fiber book. Joints, longitudinal and transversal seams and connections of ductwork shall be secured fastenedly and sealed with wells, gaskets, mastics plus embedded fabric systems, liquid sealants, or tape. Tapes and mastics used to seal fiberglass glass ductwork shall be listed and labeled in accordance with UL 181A and shall be marked 181P pressure sensitive tape, or 181 AM for mastic, or 181 for heat sensitive tape. So when you go get your stuff inspected, all that writing that UL 181 is in dark red purple, and if he doesn't see it, he's gonna know you went with the cheap tape. He's not gonna pass it. All right, what else? I don't know if that's, let's go with supports. 160144. Do I still have that? No. 16.
Yeah.
014. 43 to 44. New number. Okay. Factory made ducts listed in accordance with UL 181. I don't know where you're getting factory made ducts, but anyway. Shall be installed in accordance with manufacturer instructions. Field and shop fabricated fiberglass glass ducts shall be supported in accordance with the SMACNA or the fiberglass standards, which we don't have. Okay, so they're not going to tell us about it here. All right, so we're going to have to go with, so this is what we had before. That's a nice little change. Let me read that one more time. For field and shop fabricated fibrous glass ducts shall be supported in accordance with the SMACNA fiberglass duct constructions or the NAIMA fiberglass duct constructions. Field and shop fabricated metal and flex ducts shall be supported in accordance with the SMACNA HVA duct constructions. See, this is putting y'all in a bind. Y'all don't have this text. This is what it said in 12. This is what they changed from. And if I had a 15, I would put an asterisk and put this in there. Because I bet you, if this is a test question, they hadn't gone to this. They're going to use this O. Metal ducts shall be supported by a half-inch wide. How wide? A half-inch or more. 18 gauge strap. Okay? Half-inch wide, 18 gauge strap. That's metal ducts. Or 12 gauge galvanized wire. Half-inch, 18 gauge, or 12-inch gauge wire at intervals not exceeding 10 feet. The only reason I say this is because unless they just updated, if this is a test question, they're not going to have this. If they just updated it. Okay.
The interval is what, 10 feet?
Not exceeding 10 feet. You know, so if you went every 8 foot, you'd be good, you know. Couldn't go. Yes. Half-inch straps of 18 gauge metal. Or 12-inch gauge wire. And the interval for that hanging is not to exceed 10 feet. All right, return error. Did they take that out completely? 1602. Wait a second. Did they stick this in here somewhere else? Duct. Factory made air ducts. Yeah, I can't believe they're not going to tell us anything else about support. Okay. All right, let's take a look at return error. Let's look at prohibited, well, that's a different number now, 16022. 16022, which used to be entitled prohibited sources, now is just return air openings, and it says for heating, ventilation, AC shall comply with the following. So let's look at these. We got 4, 2 exceptions. Well, how many exceptions we got? 4. Oh, we got a lot more. I don't even know what. Okay. All right. Openings shall not be located less than 10 feet measured in any direction from an open combustion chamber or a draft hood or another appliance located in the same room. So, you know, right there, you can't put the return in the same room with the furnace, right? Because if it's gas, your little vent motor is going to try to compete with the return air. The amount of air return taken from any room or space shall not be greater than the flow rate of supply air delivered to such room. Okay, that's usually not a problem. That's why we cut the doors so they're not There's a gap under the doors now, so that's the return air for the most part. 3, return and transfer openings shall be sized in accordance with appliance or equipment manufacturer's installation instructions. Manual D, that's what you're going to do them with, manual D. 4, return air shall not be taken. Okay. Let's highlight 4. A closet, a bathroom, a toilet room. So we're assuming here that a bathroom would be like a sink where you put on your makeup and wash and brush your teeth, not the toilet room. Kitchen, garage, mechanical room. You got a boiler room in your house, the furnace room, or any unconditioned attic. Let's look at our exceptions. Taking and return air from a kitchen is not prohibited where such return air openings serve the kitchen only and are located not less than 10 feet from the cooking appliance. So somebody must have sued them and they said, no, you can do it here. Dedicated forced air system serving only the garage shall not be prohibited. All right. You're not worried about carbon monoxide poisoning. Take return air from an unconditioned crawl space shall not be accomplished through a direct connection to the return side of the forced air furnace. Transfer openings in the crawl space enclosures shall not be prohibited. Okay. Return air from one dwelling unit shall be not discharged into another unit. All right, so that's all we got in 16, and we're going to jump to, I believe we're going to jump to 41. Well, let's take a look what we got here. Combustion air. All right, now the reason we're not going over combustion air and chimneys and vents, boilers and water heaters, hydronic piping, is because that's all in the fuel gas code. It's covered much more thoroughly there, okay? Let me look at special appliances and equipment, though, 19 for a second. See if they added anything into this. Not important here. No plumbing, water heaters. I don't think there's much in 41, but let's look at it. 41, what we listed 01.1, 0.5. Disconnecting means, is that what we had here? All right, let's look at 4101.5, disconnecting means. And it tells us to see the table, 41015 table, okay? So let's take a look at this, the means of how we can cut the power off here, disconnecting means. All right, I'm on this one. I've had to, how many have I gone through? The second set continued. Heating equipment containing motors rated over an eighth of a horsepower with a supplementary overcurrent protection. What's our method here? It says in sight. Do y'all see that? They're not saying feet, not saying the old 6 feet like they used to. On the supply side fuses, an in sight from the supplementary overcurrent device. Okay. Let's see, heating equipment with rated over. I thought the other was over. Oh, containing no motor. Okay. Air conditioning condenser units and heat pump units. Y'all see that? A readily accessible disconnect within sight from the unit as the only allowable means. And it's got a footnote. The disconnecting means shall be permitted to be installed on or within the unit. Hear that? Shall be permitted to be installed on or within the unit. It shall not be located on panels designed to allow access to the unit or located so as to obscure the AC equipment nameplate. You see that a lot of time on package equipment. They'll put the disconnect, they'll just drill it right to the side of the sheet metal. Obviously, you can't cover that up. Okay. Was that the only thing we had in there? I think so. And I think that's it for this book. I know y'all enjoyed it. Okay. Now, I was going to, what time is it? 10:02. I was going to go ahead, but I tell you, we finished this in 2. I think we can probably, we'll try to finish the fuel gas in 2. It may take one more. It's the biggest of all 3, probably. So I'm going to hold off. We will, on Friday, we'll get started on the fuel gas code book, right? Now, y'all have a test to take. It becomes available, I think I punched in at 1:30 today. So wherever you are, as long as you got an online connection, you can take it. That will run through Thursday midnight. If you don't take it by then, you're locked off, okay? This is an open book test, of course, your notes and your codes, but I think most of you, this is how those test questions are. I think you'll see that, now that you're familiar with the book, it's not that difficult, okay? Not all this book is about us.
Go to that blackboard and just go to where it say test, right?
That's right, that's right. Now, I've set it up for 3 times. I don't expect you to take it 3 times. That's in case you get knocked off the line. If I see where you took 4 questions and that was it, I'm going to assume probably somehow the enter went down. But I don't expect most of you to take it 3 times. Hopefully you take it the first time. Don't take it 3 times, just take it 3 times. Because then I'm going to go like, I'm giving you the lowest score. It will. It'll automatically grade it. All right. Thank y'all. Y'all have a good week. Remember to take your test and fuel gas code next, right?
You would consider the middle score? It's excellent study.
That is.
Is our test kind of like what the contractors exam will be?
Yes, that's why I tried to set it up like. Although, just from the code itself, no questions, anything else.
I come back in for like 5 minutes and
Sure. Yeah.